There has never been a time in the history of the world that it has been so easy to manipulate, control, and divide people. And it very well be because of something you're holding in your hand right now. And you may have a mild addiction to it. What am I talking about? Of course, I am talking about the internet and or social media, which in this context, I'm just going to say social media for simplicity. And this addiction could very well be holding you back from realizing your potential. And it's probably not something you think about a whole lot. And if you do think about it, it's easy to dismiss as no big deal. And why is this? Well, I believe it's because it's a socially acceptable addiction. You know, we haven't been given very many warning labels about social media addiction, and there's not a lot of conversation about it, at least not yet, although it's starting to come. But if you don't believe me that this social media addiction is a real thing, there are actually treatment programs being developed at centers that typically treat alcohol and drug abuse problems. So they're putting it on par with those levels of addiction. So it is real and it is affecting a lot of people's lives. This video and audio is based on the post that I put together called Reclaim Your Potential from Its Silent Killer. So you can look there for a lot more statistics on social media addiction and the like, but I'm not going to get into those in this audio slash video, because what I want to focus on here is tying this idea with social media addiction to some of the lessons that we've already learned together through the expectation gaps. So we go back to our first content series. We covered the fact that our country is more divided, and especially when it comes to political opinions, than it feels like it ever has been. And we talked about the damaging effects of dehumanizing messages heard both in political conversations and outside, and the impact those can have on our lives. Well, I think a case can be made for the fact that the algorithms used by social media are the largest contributing factor to this divide. And that's because they are designed to feed us what we deem relevant, because they need to keep us on the site. The algorithms are designed to keep us on the site so that the site holder, owner, whatever, can sell more advertising. That's basically it. So they're going to show us things that already agree with our point of view. So we're going to be closed off to other people's points of view, and our opinions, whether they're good or bad, are going to be constantly validated to us, and then they will become our beliefs, and it will be hard to reshape them. Unless social media is used in an intentional way, of course. And if it's not, my worry is that we are going to be so much more focused on other people and condemning them and focusing on what they need to change in their lives, that's going to take all our energy, and we're not going to have any energy to improve ourselves, make changes in our own lives, and that is going to weaken our chance to find our potential. Then in the next series, we talked about our instinctual need to be a part of a group, and also that we tend to put our lives on hold to maintain emotional safety. And when a lot of people go to social media, they are looking for connection, validation, love, belonging, and certainty. The problem is that they are looking in the wrong place. They're not going to find those things on social media because they're going to be hard pressed to find any meaningful connections. Because most people, when they're on there, they seem to be almost putting their lives on hold to create this picture perfect persona. And then they post the perfect post and they hold their breath, waiting for validation. And the thing is, they're waiting for validation from people they probably don't even care about, because they haven't taken the time to define their core values and find out what types of people share their core values and whose opinion they should really be caring about. So again, that's going to make it hard to form meaningful connections, which are critical to realizing our full potential. And these superficial connections then are going to cast a shadow on our potential. In our third series, we focused on the importance of defining our why. So to define our why, we talked about the fact that we have to face what we fear most, ourselves, and not just our superficial self, the self that we show everyone. We're talking about our true, authentic self. And there is not a whole lot of truth and authenticity going on the internet, on social media platforms, if you've take notice. Because a lot of people are doing their best to actually hide their true authentic selves. They're using filters. They're trying to get the best angle. They are only showing the fun things they do. And of course we all do this. And I'm not saying that it's a big deal as long as it's not a huge focus of your life and you're still taking time to focus on yourself. Another thing to watch out for is if you are filling your feed with humble brags or you're following a lot of people who are doing the same. And what I mean by that is, for example, thanks so much so-and-so family for coming with us on our boat this weekend. We love you guys. So, okay, here we go. First of all, these people are trying to show you that they have friends, okay. Second, they have a boat. Good for you. Third, of course, they love these friends, blah, blah, blah. They probably, from my experience, they probably don't even like those people. And they're probably talking about them behind their back as they're posting this post. So those are the type of humble brags and actually superficial connections that I'm talking about here. Of course, we cannot realize our full potential without defining our why. And we can't define our why if we're constantly shaping our thoughts by what we see everyone else doing or by their reactions to what we post. We're going to start just looking at what everyone else thinks is important and start defining success based on everyone else's definitions instead of our own. Then in the fourth series that we've gone through so far, we talked about opening our hearts to God. And I defined God as a power greater than us that connects us, and that power is love. So God equals love and compassion. And I believe that if you believe in showing love and compassion to one another, that you believe in God, no matter what your religious affiliation is. So again, we go back to the fact that on social media, it is very difficult to form meaningful connections with people. It can be done, but it's difficult, and those connections are needed in order to show love and compassion. Now, there's nothing wrong with having superficial relationships. They're fun. We all have them. No big deal. But the problem is, if you start focusing on those more than you're focusing on your real life relationships, and you're putting those connections on hold, your real life connections, that's when you're going to start suffocating your potential and you're not going to be fostering love and compassion anymore. And as I wrote this post, there was another thing that kept popping in my mind that I haven't covered yet, and that is the 5 love languages, which is a theory that has been put out by Gary Chapman, if you haven't heard of it before. And his theory revolves around 5 languages that represent the way people give and receive love. And they are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. The thing is, none of these languages can be spoken on social media. So how are we supposed to be giving and receiving love on social media? Now, I think you could make a case for words of affirmation, and that definitely could be the case if you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone or whatever through some messaging program. But I believe if you're posting words of affirmation for the whole world to see, it kind of takes away part of the sincerity, the vulnerability, and the human element. Those are lost. So I feel like you're not really forming a good connection there. So let's wrap up this video. We've been talking long enough here. Let's turn this addiction, even if you don't think you have an addiction, you may have bad habits, though, revolving around social media and the internet. So maybe we'll call it that. Let's turn these bad habits into something positive. Because I think we've been given a gift, this gift of the internet and social media that no one else in the history of the world has had, and we are just irresponsibly taking these gifts for granted. We can use the internet and social media to communicate and learn from people that we would never have a chance to meet in real life. We can create new business models like I have with the Expectation Gaps. A little plug for myself there. Another plug for myself coming up. We can directly offer our creations to the world, and we can impact social change more easily than ever before. So what in the world are we waiting for? Let's get out there and do it. Stay tuned for my next post that is entitled 10 Simple Ways Social Media Can Support Your Potential, and we'll get into just that, some of the positive aspects of social media. So until then, stay curious.